For years, the name Jeffrey Epstein was synonymous with a dark, untouchable secret, a mystery buried behind the gates of private islands and the doors of Manhattan townhomes. We were told the truth died with him in a Manhattan jail cell in 2019. But the American public never stopped asking, who else was there? Behind the flight logs and the high society galas, how deep did the shadow of his criminal network actually reach into the halls of power, from Silicon Valley to the White House? Fast forward to today. After years of legal battles and intense public pressure, the floodgates have finally opened. Under the mandate of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, the U.S. Department of Justice has just declassified a massive trove of evidence, millions of pages, thousands of videos, and a digital trail of communication that spanned decades. This isn't just a collection of old police reports. It's a blueprint of how global elites operated in a world where wealth was often used to bypass the law. As investigators and journalists sift through the digital debris, names that once seemed untouchable are being seen in a new, harsher light. From tech titans and billionaires to high-ranking political figures, the documents reveal a web of favors and connections that many hoped would stay hidden forever. But as the redactions are lifted, we are forced to confront a chilling reality. The story of Jeffrey Epstein wasn't just about one man. It was about a system that allowed him to exist. In this video, we are going beyond the conspiracy theories to look at the hard evidence. We will trace the rise of a mysterious financier, the systemic failures that protected him for years, and the bombshell revelations from the 2026 document release that are currently shaking the foundations of the American elite. This is the final accounting. This is the truth, unsealed. The mystery of Jeffrey Epstein doesn't begin on a private island. It begins in a working-class neighborhood in Brooklyn. Born in 1953 to a middle-class family, Epstein was a math prodigy who skipped 2 grades and headed to college early. But here is the first crack in the facade. Despite his later claims of being a high-level academic and science donor, Epstein never actually graduated. He dropped out of both Cooper Union and NYU, leaving his formal education unfinished. Yet, in 1974, he managed to talk his way into a job teaching physics and math at the Dalton School, one of Manhattan's most elite private institutions. It was a position he was technically unqualified for, but Epstein had something more valuable than a degree, a terrifyingly effective ability to network. While at Dalton, he tutored the children of Wall Street's most powerful figures. It was there that he caught the eye of Alan Ace Greenberg, the CEO of Bear Stearns. By 1976, the college dropout was trading options on Wall Street. His rise was meteoric. Within a few years, he became a limited partner at Bear Stearns, but his tenure ended abruptly in 1981, following an internal investigation into a questionable personal loan. Unfazed, Epstein rebranded himself as a financial bounty hunter, claiming he helped the ultra-wealthy recover embezzled funds, or, as some whispered, helped them hide it. By the late 80s, he had secured his golden ticket, Leslie Wexner, the billionaire behind Victoria's Secret. Wexner gave Epstein unprecedented power of attorney, essentially handing him the keys to a multi-billion-dollar empire. This was the era when the Gatsby persona was born. Epstein began acquiring the trappings of a titan, a massive Manhattan townhouse, a ranch in New Mexico, and his infamous private jet. But as his wealth grew, so did the rumors. In the high society circles of New York and Palm Beach, people began to notice a pattern. Epstein was rarely seen with women his own age. Instead, he was constantly surrounded by a bevy of very young women, often described as assistants or students. While the public saw a brilliant financier, those closer to the flame were starting to see something much darker. A man who used his wealth not just to buy influence, but to build a wall of protection for a lifestyle that was already beginning to cross the line into the criminal. By the mid-2000s, the whispers in Palm Beach had turned into a full-scale police investigation. It started with a single complaint from a parent in 2005, which quickly snowballed as more young women came forward with harrowing stories of what was happening behind the gates of Epstein's Florida mansion. The Palm Beach Police Department, led by determined investigators, built what looked like an open and shut case. They had evidence of a massive, organized operation involving dozens of victims. But this is where the story takes a turn that still infuriates the American public today. As the Florida state investigation gained momentum, the federal government stepped in. What should have been a landmark prosecution resulted in one of the most controversial legal maneuvers in U.S. history, the 2008 Non-Prosecution Agreement, NPA. Behind closed doors, Alexander Acosta, the then U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, signed off on a sweetheart deal that effectively shut down the federal probe. The terms were staggering. Epstein pleaded guilty to just 2 state-level charges of solicitation. His sentence? Only 13 months in a county jail. But even that, jail time was a farce. He was granted work release, allowing him to leave the facility for up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, to work at his own office. While the world thought he was behind bars, Epstein was sitting in his leather chair, making calls and maintaining his empire. Perhaps the most chilling part of the deal was the immunity clause. The agreement didn't just protect Epstein, it granted immunity to any potential co-conspirators, unnamed associates who may have participated in or facilitated his crimes. The victims were never notified of this deal, a direct violation of the Crime Victims' Rights Act. For a decade, this slap on the wrist allowed Epstein to remain a free man, a billionaire socialite who continued to host world leaders and tech icons, all while his victims were left in the shadows, silenced by a system that seemed more interested in protecting the powerful than delivering justice. With the 2008 deal in his rearview mirror, Epstein didn't retreat into the shadows. He expanded his kingdom. The center of this universe was Little St. James, a private island in the U.S., Virgin Islands that locals began calling Pedophile Island. To the outside world, it looked like a billionaire's tropical paradise, complete with a mysterious blue and white striped building that resembled a temple. But to those flown in on his private fleet, it was a high-tech fortress designed for total privacy and total control. Then there was the transport, a Boeing 727 nicknamed the Lolita Express. This wasn't just a luxury jet, it was a mobile social club. The flight logs, which have become some of the most scrutinized documents in modern history, read like a who's who of global influence. We see the names of former presidents, Nobel Prize-winning scientists, Hollywood royalty, and international royalty like Prince Andrew. For years, the defense for many of these figures has been, "I was just catching a ride," or "I didn't know what was happening in the back of the plane." But the 2026 documents suggest the jet served a dual purpose. It was a tool for compromat, a way to bring powerful people into Epstein's orbit and keep them there through shared secrets. The network wasn't just about the island or the jet. It was about the social infrastructure Epstein built. He wasn't just a financier, he was a gatekeeper. He funneled millions into prestigious universities like MIT and Harvard, buying the veneer of intellectual respectability. He surrounded himself with fixers and recruiters, most notably Ghislaine Maxwell, the daughter of a British media tycoon. Maxwell was the bridge between Epstein's dark world and the highest echelons of British and American society. As we look at the unsealed 2026 files, the Temple of Temptation takes on a more literal meaning. The logs show a frantic level of movement, private boats shuttling guests, encrypted communications between staff, and a sophisticated surveillance system that recorded almost everything that happened on the island. The question for investigators has always been, where are those tapes? The new files suggest that Epstein's network wasn't just a lifestyle. It was a carefully constructed trap, designed to ensure that if he ever went down, he wouldn't be going alone. The world thought the Epstein story was over in 2008, but the tides began to shift in 2018. A groundbreaking exposé by the Miami Herald reignited public outrage, and on July 6, 2019, federal agents finally intercepted Epstein at Teterboro Airport. He was charged with misconduct and conspiracy, facing up to 45 years in prison. This time, there would be no secret plea deal. He was denied bail and sent to the Metropolitan Correctional Center, MCC, in Manhattan, one of the most secure federal facilities in the United States. But what happened next would spark a firestorm of skepticism that still burns today. On August 10, 2019, just over a month after his arrest, Jeffrey Epstein was found unresponsive in his cell. The medical examiner ruled the manner of death as a self-inflicted act, but for much of the American public, that explanation didn't add up. Why was the man with the most sensitive secrets in the world taken off special observation just days after a previous incident in his cell? Why did the two guards assigned to watch him both fall asleep and later falsify their logs? And, most notoriously, why did the surveillance cameras facing his cell tier malfunction at the exact moment the world needed them most? The questions didn't stop at the prison gates. High-profile forensic experts pointed to multiple fractures in Epstein's neck, specifically the hyoid bone, noting that such injuries are statistically more common in cases of manual strangulation than in the official reported cause. While the official government reports, including those from the Inspector General, maintained that the outcome was a result of systemic negligence rather than foul play, the Epstein didn't kill himself. Sentiment became a cultural phenomenon. It wasn't just a meme. It was a symptom of a deep-seated distrust in the institutions meant to hold the powerful accountable. His passing effectively silenced the one man who could have named every name in his black book. For the victims, it felt like a final act of cowardice, a way for Epstein to escape the justice of a courtroom. But as we see in the 2026 documents, his death wasn't the end of the evidence. It was simply the beginning of a long, stalled wait for the files that he left behind. The silence that many thought would last forever was finally shattered on January 30th, 2026. Following the passage of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, a rare piece of bipartisan legislation that even President Trump signed into law, the U.S. Department of Justice released a staggering 3.5 million pages of documents. Along with this mountain of paperwork came over 2,000 videos and 180,000 images seized from Epstein's various properties over the last 2 decades. For the first time, the public wasn't looking at leaked snippets. They were looking at the raw, unfiltered evidence of a global network. The revelations were immediate and explosive. In the business world, emails revealed that Elon Musk and Bill Gates were more frequently in Epstein's orbit than previously admitted, with records showing Epstein attempting to arrange meetings or visits as late as 2013, while both have maintained their innocence, stating they were either targeted by Epstein or met him for philanthropic reasons. The sheer volume of communication in the new files has sparked a fresh wave of scrutiny. Meanwhile, in the political sphere, the documents contain transcripts of FBI interviews and summaries that mention names across the spectrum, including former presidents and current cabinet members like Howard Lutnick, who was shown making plans to visit Epstein's island in 2012. However, the release has not come without a high price. Within days, a massive legal battle erupted over sloppy redactions. It was discovered that the DOJ had accidentally left the names, email addresses, and even identifying photos of over 100 victims exposed to the public. By February 2, 2026, lawyers for the survivors demanded the immediate removal of the files, calling the release life-threatening. The government was forced to pull down thousands of documents to fix these technical errors, leading many to wonder if the mishandling was a result of incompetence or a deliberate attempt to make the transparency process so chaotic that the truth remains buried. As of today, February 3, 2026, the investigation has shifted from what Epstein did to who enabled him. The file suggests that Epstein may have provided victims to other powerful men, contradicting years of official denials that he acted alone. With Bill and Hillary Clinton being held in contempt of Congress for refusing to testify, and the DOJ facing pressure to release the remaining 3 million pages it still holds, the American public is realizing that January's data dump wasn't the conclusion. It was the spark that ignited a new era of accountability. The release of 3.5 million pages was supposed to be the final act of the Epstein saga. But as of February 2026, it has only opened a new, more volatile chapter in American history. For the public, the sheer scale of the documents has confirmed a long-held suspicion that Jeffrey Epstein was not just a rogue criminal, but the center of a gravity well that pulled in some of the most influential people on the planet. From the halls of Buckingham Palace to the boardrooms of Silicon Valley and the inner sanctums of Washington, D.C., the files have painted a portrait of an elite class that often operated above the law. But as the dust settles on this massive data dump, the primary question remains: what does justice look like now? With Epstein dead and his accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell already behind bars, the focus has shifted toward the enablers, the people who looked the other way, the institutions that accepted his money, and the associates who allegedly participated in his crimes. While the Department of Justice has signaled that further criminal prosecutions are unlikely, the court of public opinion is proving to be much less forgiving. We are already seeing the fallout: high-level resignations in European governments, public apologies from tech titans, and a renewed push in Congress to hold those mentioned in the files accountable. Yet, for the survivors, this moment is bittersweet. While some, like Maria Farmer, describe feeling redeemed after decades of being ignored, others are facing a new nightmare. The DOJ's recent human error, that left the names of hundreds of victims unredacted, has been called the single greatest violation of victim privacy in U.S. history. It serves as a haunting reminder that even in the pursuit of truth, the system can still fail those it was meant to protect. The fight for justice has moved from the courtroom to a massive, messy digital archive, where journalists and survivors are now tasked with sifting through millions of pages to find the pieces of a puzzle the government seemingly wants to move past. The Epstein story is no longer just about the crimes of one man. It is a mirror held up to our society. It asks us how much power we allow wealth to buy and how long we are willing to let the truth remain unsealed. As we look at the headlines today, on February 3, 2026, it's clear that the Epstein files are not a closed book. They are a living record of a system under fire. The redactions may be fading and the names may be coming into focus, but the path to true accountability is only just beginning. The truth is out there. Now, the question is what we as a society are prepared to do with it.